Hello, our lecture today is about measurement of trend. As we said last time, that time series data consists of four main components. Trend, seasonal, cyclical, and random. So our lecture today will focus on trend and how to measure trend. There are four different ways to measure trend. Number one, using free hands or graphic methods. And number two, using semi-averages method. Number three, moving averages method. And finally, number four, least squares method. So we would like to know how to calculate or to measure or to use each one of them and the main advantage and disadvantages of each one of them. Let's start with number one, or the freehand or graphic method. Here is a sample of number of employees, for example, over a period from 2000 to 2005. We would like to plot the graph or to use the freehand method. The first step, according to this method, is to draw the scatter diagram. This is time and the number of workers. And here is the observations. In year 2000, it's 30. 2001, 46. 2002, 25. 2003, 59. And 2004, it's 40. 2005, it's 60. So this is step number one, which is plotting the scatter diagram. Step number two is to draw freehand smooth curve, joining the points together. Here is the freehand curve. Now we would like to examine the direction, identify the direction. And finally, draw a straight line which passes through the maximum number of A plotted points. So this is the trend line. Okay, so this is the freehand method. It is the simplest and most flexible method. So what are the main advantages and disadvantages of this method? Number one, it's the simple method. Requires no calculations. Can be used even if trend is not linear. What about the disadvantages? Number one, it's subjective. And number two, values of trends can vary based on the one who drew them. So this is the first method, which is the simplest method. Now let's move to number two, semi-averages method. Here is our example. This is year and the production, 2000, 2001, 2, 3, 2004, 2005, and finally 2006. And the production 105, 115, 120, and 100, 110, 125, and finally 135. In case of semi-average, we have to divide data into two equal parts. If the data, just like this example, is odd number, the number of observations in this case are 7 observations. So we can divide it to 3 observations and 3 observations and omit the central observation. So this will be 2 equal halves and only one omitted from the center. And then we have to calculate the average for each half. So the average for the first half is 105 plus 115 plus 120 over 3, which is 113.33. And the average for the second half is 110 plus 125 plus 135 over 3, which is 123.33. And then we have to plot the graph using these 2 points. This is 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, and 2006. The value of 113 will be in the middle of the 3 years. The middle of the 3 years is year 2001. So in front of 2001, it will be 111, 113. And in front of year 2005, which is the middle of the 3 years, 2005, it will be 123. Connect the 2 points together. This is the trend line. If the number of observations is even number, 8 for example, so it's gonna be divided into 4 observations and 4 observations without omitting the central observation. So what are the main advantages and disadvantages of using this method? Number one, it's still simple. Doesn't require many calculations. What about the disadvantages? It's used when trend is linear, so it can't be used if trend is non-linear. Number two, averages are affected by extremes. So say, for example, if this is 1 instead of 105, the value will vary completely. So these are the main advantages and disadvantages of the second method. Now we are going to move to the third method. Moving average method. Here is our example. Year 1995, 96. The first step is to decide the period of moving average. Say, for example, that we are going to calculate moving average each 3 years. يبقى 3 years moving average. So in this case, let's assume that this is observation A, B, C, D, E, F, and so on. So if you would like to calculate the moving average for 3 years, it will be calculated as A plus B plus C over 3. B plus C plus D over 3. C plus D plus E over 3. And if you would like to calculate it for 4 years, it will be A plus B plus C plus D over 4, and so on. So here in our example, we would like to calculate for the first 3 years. So it's going to be calculated as A, which is 332, plus B, which is 317, plus 357. So this is the first moving average over 3, equal 335.33. The value of this moving average will be located in the center of the 3 observations. The center of 1995, 1996, and 1997. So it will be here. This means that there is no value for the moving average in the first year. Then we would like to calculate for the third year. It will be 317, we are going to omit this one, plus 357, plus 392 over 3. And it will be located in the middle between 96, 97, and 98. So it will be in front of 97. It's 355.33. And you are going to do the same for the rest of the years. It will be 357 plus 392 plus 402 over 3, and so on. So it will be and there is no observations or there is no moving average in front of the last year. So in case of 3 years moving average, you will not find observation or moving average in front of the first or the last year. What are the main advantages and disadvantages of using this method? Number 1, easily applied. And number 2, useful in case of periodic fluctuations, as is calculated every 3 or 5 or 4 years. So any periodic fluctuations will appear in this calculation of the trend. Number 3, doesn't show different results by different users. So what are the main disadvantages of using this method? Number 1, less effective if the data is non-periodic. Say, for example, you have data for year 2000, and then 2003, and then 2004, and then 2009. So it's non-periodic data. It's not an annual or semi-annual data. So in this case, this method will not be effective one. Selection of the proper period for computing moving average. Are you going to calculate moving average every 3 years or 4 or 5? And finally, value of the first few years and the last years can't be found. As we said, there is no observation in front of the first and in front of the last year. So let's move to the fourth method, which is the least squares method. In case of least squares method, we would like to find the best fit line, which is the sum of the deviations of various points, or in other words, it is calculated as the actual value minus the estimated value. Let's assume that we have an equation which represents the trend y equal a plus bx, where y is the actual value and x is time. A and b are the intercept and the slope, and we would like to find the value of a and b. Value of a and b can be found after solving these two equations simultaneously. The two equations are summation y equal na plus b summation x. Summation xy equal a summation x plus b summation x squared. So the value of a is found as summation y over n, or y bar, and the value of b is summation xy over summation x squared. But we have to find the value of x. We are not going to use it as 2001. It's a very large number. We would like to find the deviated form of x. So the deviated form of x will be calculated as the middle value of x. Here, let's take an example to make it clear. Say this is the value for sales over number of years. Year 2000, 2001, up to 2006. And this is the value of sales. The first step is to find the value of x. As we said, x represents time. And in order to find the deviated form of x, it's gonna be the middle point. This is these three observations and three observations. So here it will be 2003. If you would like to find the deviated form, it will be 2000 minus 2003. It's negative 3. So for the first one, it's negative 3. Number 2, 2001 minus 2003, it's negative 2. 2002 minus 2003, it's negative 1. 2003 minus 2003 is 0. 2004 minus 2003 is 1, 2, and 3. So this is the first step, which is value of x. Now we would like to find x squared and xy. X squared is calculated as negative 3 to the power 2, 4, 1, 0, 1, 4, 9. So the summation of sales, it's 316. This is summation of y. Number of observations is 7. Summation of x must be 0. X squared is 28. Xy is negative 3 multiplied by 40, which is negative 120. Negative 2 multiplied by 45 is negative 90. And so on. So summation of xy is 29. Now we would like to find the value of a and b. A is calculated as summation y over n. Summation y is 316 over n, which is 7. So a equals 45.163. And with respect to b, it's calculated as summation xy over summation x squared. Summation xy is 29 and summation x squared is 28. So it's 1.016. So we can write the trend equation as y equal 45.163 plus 1.016x. If you would like to find the trend for each observation, this is y trend or y estimated, it will be just a substitute using the value of x in the equation. 42.163, 43.07, 44.11, 45.14, and 46.18, 47.22, and finally 48.25. So what are the main advantages and disadvantages of using this method? Number 1, eliminates personal bias. As we said in the moving average method, you have to determine the number of periods used in calculation of moving average. Maybe I am going to use 3, you will use 4. So this is a personal bias. This is a selection based on our preferences. But in case of linear or least squares, in this case, there is no personal bias. In case of moving average, as we said, the first observations and last observations, you cannot find the moving average for this or the trend, the value of trend for these years. But in case of least squares, you can find the trend value for all periods. What about the disadvantages? Calculation is much more difficult than semi-average or moving average. If you would like to add any new observation, this means to recalculate all steps or redo all steps. And number three, it ignores cyclical fluctuations or seasonal fluctuations. So this is the end of our lecture today. Thank you and see you next week.